Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I think it's been about 20 years since I spoke to the League of Women Voters. Right after I rolled into town about 22 years ago, I gave a presentation, and so definitely time for an update. And a pretty exciting time in garbage. Neil, if you'd go to the yep. I love talking trash. As many or most of you have probably heard, the city's proposing to move to an automated trash collection system. Automated trash collection utilizes remotely controlled mechanical arms to lift special containers, dumping the contents of those containers into the body of the collection vehicle. The mechanical arms operated from the cab. The operator actually never leaves the cab. It's air-conditioned comfort in the summer and heat in the wintertime, which is what they're not used to now. Neil, next slide, please. Under this proposal, each household that we service would be issued 2 separate containers, wheeled containers, one for trash and one for recyclables. Next slide, please. This is the style of truck that collects these types of containers. This is actually the style of truck that the city is leaning toward right now. It's kind of blurry, but the body portion of that. This arm actually has a reach of 12 feet, so it does maneuver around parked vehicles fairly well, although that can be one of the issues with these types of programs. But it does have a long reach. I think Bob's using a version of this particular manufacturer as well. Next slide, please. And that's just another picture of the contents being dumped into the vehicle. So it's a mechanical operation. The operator doesn't leave the truck. We'll talk about the advantages of this type of program, why we're doing this now, and some of the issues that are likely to come up as we move to this. Next slide, please. It does cost some capital, primarily in the carts. We're looking. Council just authorized actually the expenditure of $3.15 million to convert to this program. Almost 2.8 million of that is for the carts themselves. We priced these at the time. We put this proposal together in August of 2011 for the 2012 budget year, and at the time we were looking at cart costs of around $58 each for the larger size cart. That includes distribution and some other things that the vendor provides. Prices have come down a little bit since then, so hopefully we'll come in well under that 2.8 million. We also needed $370,000 to upgrade our collection equipment, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. From an operating cost standpoint, and this slide here is just a short version of the table that's attached to the back of your packet. If you want to go to the table that's on the packet, it might be a little bit better. I couldn't fit it all on here and have it readable. So we did look at a number of different options when we put this together. What the council, what we recommended and what the council asked us to implement is a fully automated program on trash and recycling with weekly collection of trash and every other week collection of recyclables. Very similar to the program, exactly like the program now. But we also looked at full automation, both trash and recycling with monthly collection of recyclables. And we looked at automating just the recycling portion of this so that we could offer single stream collection of recyclables, which I'll talk about again in just a second, with both bi-weekly and monthly collection. The least costly alternative from an operating standpoint would have been to go to full automation with monthly collection of recyclables. But we talked about that with the council, and we all felt it would help our recycling program if we maintained our bi-weekly collection. Notice that the cost differences in all of these options is fairly minimal, less than $1 a month from the most costly to the least costly program. So we weren't talking about large swings in operating costs, and which was another reason that the council opted to stick with the weekly trash collection and bi-weekly recycling program. If you look at the line there that talks about 2012 budget with an October 1st implementation date, you can see that the operating cost at $6.18 per household per month is about 20 cents less than it would be with our current operation at $6.38. And that's because we're able to operate this program with fewer pieces of equipment and fewer operators simply because of the efficiency that mechanization offers. So if you look at the next line up, however, when we're looking at a full year of implementing this program, it does cost about 17 cents per household per month more, because the payments on those carts, we're going to borrow for that money, and the payments on that debt service come into play. So it is 17 cents more per household per month, more cost for the program, but that doesn't factor in any savings that we might realize by avoiding or eliminating altogether our workers' compensation claims, which I'll talk about again in a second. Some of the benefits that we should see that other communities have seen in moving to automation: aesthetics and cleanliness in neighborhoods. All of the waste has to be containerized, and it's a hard side container. The containers are generally critter proof, and Bob maybe can verify that because they're doing automation now. As a result of those two things, litter is generally reduced. There's also a nice uniform appearance. If you go into a community that has fully automated collection, it's much different than driving into a community like ours that doesn't, that has a lot of trash at the curb on the day of collection. Next slide.
I think you talked about the other one.
Oh, did I go ahead of myself?
Yeah,
okay.
Let's try this one now.
That's what you were saying. So let's go back to this one. Workers' compensation claims. Over the last 10 years, the city's annualized average workers' compensation claims have been close to $50,000. We've had years as low as $2,000 and years where claims exceeded or reached almost $300,000. It's a very demanding job, particularly here in Janesville. We have a landfill in the middle of our community, and our operators have very little off-route time to the landfill. So they get to the landfill, they dump their back on the route. As a result, they've been a highly efficient crew. They'll pick up anywhere from 750 to 800 homes per day in an annual collection program, and I think Bob would attest that that's highly efficient. And we expect to get even more efficient when we move to automation. But back injuries, shoulder injuries, and ankle injuries, getting in and out of that truck, particularly on days like today, very problematic for the operators. So, keep in mind that those numbers that I represented before don't incorporate any savings that we might realize as a result of a reduction in workers' comp claims. Automation is also going to facilitate our conversion to single-stream recycling, as did our contract with Rock Disposal. But under single-stream collection, right now we have a dual-sort program where paper recyclables need to be separated from containers, and under this program, paper and containers can be mixed into that one of those two carts that you're going to get issued. And then it's Bob's job to take all that and sort it out and get lots of money for us under that program. Communities that have converted to single-stream collection, many of them, a vast majority, I would say, have seen significant increases in the amount of material that they've collected from their residents. 20 to 25% is generally the norm. I would hope to attain that here as well. So now I guess we're going to go ahead 2 slides.
Okay. So you already said this.
There are some challenges. Again, all waste needs to be in the containers that are provided. Some people are going to see that as a reduction in the level of service that's provided. Areas with limited off-street parking, our older areas of the city, the Fourth Ward and the Look West neighborhoods, have some issues in that regard that we experience during plowing as well. But most communities have those issues, and all of those communities have made this work in one way or another. We may need to do some accommodation. Some communities will move containers by hand so that they can be collected and things like that if there are parked cars in the area. One of the strategies, maybe not so much this time of year, but when there's not snow on the ground, is to actually put those carts right in the curb line. Will also prevent cars from parking in front of your house so that you're insured collection. So some various strategies that we'll have to work with there. Collecting Christmas trees with automation, we're probably going to have to set up a separate collection program for those. We believe, we're certain we can do that within those budget figures that we showed in that table before. But it'll be different. It'll be probably 1 or 2 weeks after Christmas on a schedule, and people have to have them out in time for us to collect. Next slide, please. Some other challenges, there's going to be those times of year like the holidays where you have more waste than may fit in a single container. Cleaning out the garage, cleaning out the basement. So there's going to be those times where you have some high volume, but there are some strategies that we all can implement on our own to accommodate that. And as we get closer to the program, there'll be a lot more information that is distributed to all of the households in town. We'll talk about more in depth a lot of these issues in that information. And there may be, as Judy Adler has made aware to me, maybe a few places in town where it might not work. Judy's challenged me here on her specific instance, but we're going to figure something out over there, Judy. But it's not the end-all be-all, just like manual trash collection is not the end-all be-all. There are challenges with any method that you implement, and we just have to overcome those challenges. So, next slide. Why automate now? The city is uniquely positioned to convert all of its equipment to automation. We purchased 4 trucks back in 2009. We had those configured so that they can be retrofitted, which we're in the process of doing now, and 6 other collection vehicles are scheduled for replacement this year, and those will be upgraded. That'll provide the full fleet that we need then to convert. So our timing is very good relative to that. As Bob will attest, it's the industry trend. More communities, most private sector collection operations are moving to automation, primarily because of the efficiency gains and the reduction in workers' compensation claims. And as we showed in the table, it's become cost competitive now. That 17 cents a month difference we didn't feel was insurmountable to moving forward and implementing this program. So last slide. And single stream collection. Once Bob wandered into my office one day and said, hey, we're setting up a transfer and sorting and processing operation. We want your recyclable materials. They gave us a great proposal, much better than we had under our former contract. Our old contract actually was an impediment to making the conversion. It would have been more costly, much more costly for us to go single stream than maintain our current program. So Bob and his group did a great job down there at Rock in putting together a proposal that really made this financially feasible for the city. We could have converted to single stream under our manual collection program, but in the absence of providing the customer that cart, we didn't think we would have seen much benefit in the way of increased recycling rates in the material that we collect. It's really the cart that drives that. So That's it in a nutshell. I'll defer to Neil and Bob.
You're on, Bob. Tell us what your position is with rock disposal.
I'm one of two owners of the company. I've been in the waste business for about 35 years and have seen a lot of changes in that time. When I first started in 1976, recycling wasn't part of the landscape. I was fortunate. I did go to the University of Wisconsin Green Bay, which has an environmental focus, and it was always an interest of mine. And I was fortunate to get into an industry that would allow me both to make a living and to address those concerns. Some of the things that we started out with in the various companies in terms of recycling was setting up the first curbside recycling program in the state of Wisconsin in 1986 for the city of Fitchburg. And to give you an idea where we've come from, when we set up that program, we had 3 containers for recyclables alone. One was for glass, one was for cans and bottles and plastic and cans, and the other was for paper. And we had to collect those and keep them separate during that system. It was very cumbersome, but it was the first of its kind and was awarded the governor's award for recycling programs. So we were excited about that. And as times passed, the way that materials are handled in Wisconsin have changed. When I started, recyclables weren't taken out of the waste stream. Today, there's about 4.6 million tons of material that is generated in the state of Wisconsin, with about 1.75% or 1.75 million or 38% of that material being recycled. So there's a big change. The recycling market itself has changed. It used to be just metals were sought to get out of the waste stream, and now things have changed, and we're looking at all types of materials: plastics, paper, glass, aluminum, steel, all of the things that I'm sure you're aware of. And from no homes recycling back in 1976, we now have a 94% participation rate by residential customers to some degree. The automated programs, which our company uses exclusively for many of the reasons that John has stated. But the primary reason, my primary reason is it's hard to get employees to do a job like this. And when you do find them, to keep them without injury is very difficult. So now what we have is a program that allows us to keep our people working, even as old as I am. They can go out and operate the trucks. They don't ask me to operate them, by the way. They've seen me drive. But it's a very nice, neat system. It's very efficient. The people are safe, not only from handling, but they don't have to get out into traffic. There's all kinds of things that go on. And virtually every contract, we service about 9,000 homes right now, and those are both individually billed as well as municipalities that have converted. And every one of them has been really pleased with the conversion. It's made it easier. Are there people that have problems? Yes, but none that we've not been able to handle or manage. And overwhelmingly, they like it. I talked with John this morning and about how many pounds approximately per household were being generated or recycled per month in the city of Janesville. And roughly that came out to 30 pounds per household per month, okay, which is a good rate. It's not bad. With an automated system, you will see that go up, and the numbers are consistent, and we're doing about 40 pounds per household. So that's about a 25% increase. The idea being is that the easier you make it, the more people will recycle. It's just that simple. There is, of course, the 10%, 80%, 10% rule. And that is that 10% of the people, and I think that the League of Women Voters could have attested this, but 10% of the people will recycle no matter what, if they have to haul it to the recycling facility themselves. And 10% of the people won't recycle, if we went into their house and sorted it out for them. So what we want to address really is that 80% in the middle. And what we found is by making the system easy and efficient for people, that we've seen an increase of 20 to 25% in the amount of recyclable material that is generated. Intuitively, it makes sense. A little bit about our company. The state of Wisconsin has a law that requires that all residents and all businesses, both commercial and industrial, have recycling programs. So all of our residents receive two containers, 2 totes, like John's talking about. Every business has 2 containers, one for waste, one for recycling. And every industry is like that. From those customers, we're taking about 8,000 tons per month or per year in recycling it. We're also at our recycling facility, which is located on Town Line Road between Janesville and Beloit. We divert about 4,000 tons of material from the general waste stream. And what that is material that customers have been unable to get out of the waste stream. That'd be like construction companies. We take a lot of wood out, we take a lot of steel, we get aluminum, we take plastic siding, all kinds of materials. But that's a very labor-intensive job, but it is effective. And we are putting in a comprehensive program, thanks in part to the contract with the city of Janesville, that will allow us to separate on-site all of the materials that come to us. So the materials come in as a single stream recycling, with most of the material taken out, most of the organic material or non-recyclable material taken out. It's essentially loaded into a conveyor system, leveled off, goes through a system of sieves that separate cardboard first, then paper, then the containers, and then that is taken off and the containers are separated. We have an eddy current, which is like a magnet for aluminum that separates off the aluminum automatically, and we of course have a magnet for the tin cans. And the residual is mostly mixed plastics. One of the advantages that we have in the program that we presented to the city and that all of our customers enjoy is the fact that we now have outlets for all plastics 1 through 7. Now, the technology, again, if you've been around as long as I have, you see a lot of changes. And what we're really seeing with the plastics is either remanufacturing, taking things like polystyrene that comes from egg cartons and remanufacturing into new egg cartons or packing or materials, or demanufacturing, which is to take it back to its original state of petroleum. All of those technologies are at some point in the process. There are difficulties with plastics 5 through 7, and we really can't deal with those. Those materials come to us. We can, and we haven't made up our mind on that yet, take out the 1s and 2s. 1s are plastic soda bottles and things of that nature. Very, very, very marketable plastic, very reusable. You know, it's in carpets, it's in polar fleece. It can be used and it can be remanufactured into drinking containers and all that stuff. But only about 20% of those are being recycled at this point. I don't have an explanation for that, but we hope as we go forward here, and one of my goals with our company and with our customers is to come up with some sort of incentive to get people to be more conscious. I think that we've lost focus somewhat on recycling. Everybody does it as a matter of fact, but I'm pretty certain that we can get a lot more material out of the general waste stream and recycle it. But there has to be some incentive for that. And as everyone knows, there is no incentive going to come from the government. John was standing, that's not what I mean. But you know, they increased 2 years ago recycling fees, and that really didn't come back to the communities to offset anything or to help new programs. And we almost lost the municipal backing for the state this year. So if it's going to be done, it has to be done at a grassroots level. Yeah, but there is material in the waste streams, a significant amount by the DNR's own statement, that it still goes to landfills. Some of that will be changed as we look at waste to energy facilities, which are also on the horizon, that will help us use at least some of that material. But the recyclables themselves are something that we can address today. And I'll finish this just by saying that the tote system is a very, very positive change for the city. Everybody's going to like it. It's going to increase recycling, and it'll be better for the environment.
Thank you. So now's the time for questions.
If you stand by the mic. I have a question. I don't need to be so careful in asking it. Can you tell me there's no way I can mess up my recycling by putting something in there that shouldn't go in there?
I would say that. And I would say that if you're going to err on putting it in your recycling bin as opposed to putting it in the trash.
It's not going to contaminate the whole truck or anything like that?
No, everything, this is an automated system with human oversight that allows us to deal with that. In fact, the increased recycling will come from materials that's being put in there. You know, there's not too many things. I mean, there are items that are banned from the landfill, you know, like fluorescent bulbs and CFLs and you know, things of that nature. But even at that's not going to hurt us. That'll just come out in the end. It's a very automated system.
Is this in the way of seeing them? Like this? Okay. Technology.
Repeating the question so that I fix it up and help.
That would be true too, yes. Okay, other questions? Barb?
I was talking to friends yesterday about this, and one question that we had concerned the elderly and people who may not have a lot of strength to be hauling these big carts down the curb. I mean, one man I talked to said that he was happy to just carry his one little bag of garbage down the curb, but to have to wheel something big and heavy would be a challenge.
Repeat the question.
Let me see if I can paraphrase. Is it more difficult for the elderly or the handicapped to maneuver these containers than, say, what they're currently doing with bags or bins? And I'll defer. Bob may want to supplement what I'm going to say, but these carts roll very easily. They look big, and they can be a little intimidating if you're standing next to them, particularly for a short guy like me. But the containers themselves, they tip very easily, they roll very easily, and I think in most cases, people will be able to utilize those. Are there going to be some instances where we're going to have to make some accommodation? Certainly, we do that now with regular trash pickup. We have stops that we have to go up to the house to provide service to. So, what's your experience?
Exactly that. People like the wheel containers. They're much easier than dragging the bag down. And you do have the people that say, well, gee, I just have a little bit. Well, one of the advantages with a 90-gallon cart is you can do it every other week. The wheeled containers are manufactured for this very thing, and we have the same system. If someone is not capable of doing that, then they need to contact us, and our drivers will go up and pick them up, empty them, and take them back. We have, and I'm not speaking for John, but you have to make some sort of accommodation for that. But the overall efficiency and safety of this program more than compensates us to do those little things for people. But in our experience, people have found them to be an improvement, not an impediment to the system that they're using. Our common answer is try it and then let us know, and very, very seldom do we get a second call.
I would just add too that what's going on right now in Janesville is exactly what has gone on in just about every other community that has made the conversion. And the first thing is the shock and awe of the containers. And in nearly every community that we've researched, that almost disappears after 2-3 months of experience with the containers themselves. So this is very typical.
Is there any penalty for not putting it out every week or every other week? What if I only put it out every 4th week or 6th week or something?
Yeah, is there any penalty for not putting your recycling out every other week as the schedule provides? The answer is no. In fact, we would encourage people to make sure those containers are full before they do put them out, so that efficiency of collection is optimized. Same on the trash side. This time of year, it might not be so bad to hang on to your waste for 2 weeks. In August, not so much. So that does help efficiency, and if you can, we would encourage that.
Sir?
What's the average life of these containers, and has it been decided, who will pay for the replacements, the city, or will it be incorporated in a tax levy, or has that been decided yet?
Sure. The question is, what's the longevity on the carts, and when that cart needs replacement, who will pay for the replacement? All of the manufacturers that I'm aware of offer a 10-year warranty on these carts. They're extremely durable. If you think about it, even on a weekly collection program, it's only getting picked up 52 times. It's set down 52 times. Now on automation, if you don't have the right kind of operator, that one time is enough to maybe do something to that container. But they're very durable. They have these 10-year warranties. They're non-prorated warranties. We anticipate a fair amount of cart maintenance as part of the program, which has been incorporated into the cost. All of the manufacturers that we're talking to have carts that are out there, have been out there 15 years. Some have carts that have been out 20 years that are still functional, still able to be serviced. Ultimately, when that cart needs to be replaced, who is going to pay for that? That's not been decided yet by the council. We have to bring a proposal forward. I think we're probably leaning toward having the resident pay for that because of the intermittent nature of the replacement. It's not going to be a wholesale replacement like this initial distribution. We're not going to go in 15 years replace all of the carts in the city. It'll be incremental as those carts deteriorate over time, and probably makes more sense operationally to have the resident pay for that at the time of replacement.
And the price per cart is?
Right now, and the price actually fluctuates monthly with the price of plastics. Right now, we believe we're probably in that $50 to $55 per cart rate for the 90-gallon, 96-gallon carts.
Lois, did you have a question?
Oh, I did have a question, but that gentleman is a mind reader. But anyway, I have another thought. Are there any of the plastics recycled that go into making the containers?
Go ahead.
The answer is yes. There's a number of them that go into it. And it was right here. I had it, but the answer is yes. And it's not ones and twos, so that's the good news. So there is a certain recycling component, a certain percentage of recyclable materials that do go into the carts. Depends on the manufacturer. But.
Yeah, some manufacturers have as high as 50% post-consumer recycling content, which is the type of recyclable material that we're putting into these carts, as well as some like plastic scrap that comes out of the manufacturing process. They'll recycle that material as well.
Andrea?
Got a couple questions, but the first one is, I'm a little staggered by the debt, $5.78 million for the trucks and carts. And I had two questions. One, if my math says it will take us 15 years to recoup any savings from this investment. And so my second question is, the question then is, do you know what the debt amortization is? How long it's going to take the citizens to pay this debt off? Is it on a 3-year or a 5-year or a 30-year?
The city's general, it'll be through the general obligation note issue that the city issues every year. The amount is $3.15 million, and it's on a 10-year payment. And that debt service, not only the principal but the interest, is included in the cost figures that are on this last table as part of your packet.
And then another question I have is, I watch America's Funniest Video, and occasionally they have these trucks on there where they whip the trash in and whatever's in the can is lightweight and it flies all over the neighborhood. Other, on this end, not so funny videos that this is what we're getting. And people have said that. So my concern here is like, are we going to be getting tickets as citizens if we don't have it on the pavement, or if we do have it on the pavement, or if the bins are behind cars, or if trash goes flying all over the place, or if we have excess garbage, like in my neighborhood, the 4th Ward, we have high density, and when people move out, there's a bunch of stuff that goes to the curb. You know, I mean, aren't these people going to get out of the truck and pick up all the extra if it's bagged? And then another concern I have is that when you pick up every other week instead of even weeks or odd weeks, nobody in our neighborhood, my neighborhood, ever knows when it's recycling week. And so when they put it out and it doesn't get picked up, they dump it in a black plastic bag, and they put it out to the trash the following time. So, so one thought about the employees in the city is if we did even weeks or odd weeks, so you always knew, and even if the garbage was picked up even weeks or odd weeks, the same day as the recycling, then that would free up employees to clear the sidewalks of snow for us in the winter and get the rest of the mowing done in the summer. So a whole bunch of ideas.
How do we know what's even and what's odd?
Well, the Monday, the 1st and 3rd Monday, the week of the 1st and 3rd Monday would be your recycling and garbage. The week of the 2nd and 4th Monday would be, you know.
And if there's a 5th week,
then these guys get a day off and they can catch up with the snow, and they can catch up with the lawn, and they can catch up with all this other stuff that we're paying them major bucks for overtime.
Okay.
You know, they'll pick up garbage all day and then they'll plow all night.
Can you repeat the question?
What a challenge. Okay, please respond.
Well, I'm not sure which one to respond to.
Pick one.
I'm going to start with the calendar. We send out calendars to our residents that indicates what day what is picked up, and they're picked up every other week for recycling, every week for trash. And you are absolutely right about the first month. It's very confusing, but after that we have no problem, and once you get going, it's not an issue. Now, there are people that are brain dead, I grant, but generally they will.
Our whole neighborhood, buddy.
Okay, well, they'll be watching for the people that
Set an example.
they'll be watching for the people that put it out. So if you get calendars with the dates on it, I think that you can be pretty comfortable that for the most part people will do that.
We have considered going to twice a month as opposed to every other week. There's two fewer collection events. On every other week collection, there would be 2. So.
Don't worry about the math.
Yeah, the math. And we certainly can consider that again. We have an opportunity here at the time of conversion to do that. Are we going to save any money doing that? Probably not, because the same trucks, one of the different concepts here, and I believe this is what most in the private sector do as well, is the same trucks that are picking up your trash are going to be picking up your recycling. The same operator, the same day. same truck. So it's that we won't have two separate fleets like we do now, where one guy's picking up trash, one's recycling. That had to do with number of trucks and routing. It was much simpler from a routing standpoint, and it actually allowed us to send out, to purchase one less vehicle by doing it this way. I think that's what Bob does too.
So what you're saying is that on my garbage day, the truck would come by once to pick up the trash, and the second time it would come to pick up the recycling.
Correct.
Are the recycling containers going to be a different color?
Will the recycling containers be a different color? No. It's very likely that all of the containers will be the same color, but the lids will have different colors. The lid on the recycling container will be different than the lid. That has to do with inventory of carts, keeps your inventory down. You only have to stock lids, and as opposed to different colored cards. So.
Judy?
What are your plans for educating, re-educating citizens about what is recyclable or not? For example, a container like this, the bottom says it's number 1. What is the cap?
Generally a 5, and Bob might know a little bit better, but if memory serves me, most of the lids on the plastic, on the 1s and 2s that we recycle are a number 5 plastic, but he's the plastics expert.
That won't be an issue.
What are your plans for education?
Oh gosh, I don't even know. What are our plans for education? That's actually a little overwhelming for me. We've met internally as a staff a number of times now, and have talked about a myriad of things, from the city's website to YouTube videos. We're going to work with JATV. They're actually going to put together a production for us on a couple of different aspects of the program, direct mailing, whatever news outlets we can utilize, flyers. There will be stuff, information distributed along with the containers themselves when they're rolled out. So we have a pretty ambitious goal, and it comes in segments. We're doing this now, and then you throw some more information out there at some point, and then as you get closer to the program, you really start to step up your efforts. So we have a lot of things on the board. Did that answer your question?
Other questions?
Yes. First, I wanted to thank the League of Women Voters for doing this great panel and getting all of this extra information and giving us a way that we can start asking all of the questions that we thought. Another question is, John might not realize, when the city council approved the number of bins, they said that it was going to be 2 bins per stop, rather than saying 2 bins per household. And my concern with that is that in the 4th ward, where we have high density, one stop will be 2 or 3 or 4 households. So we're hoping to get 4 or 6 or 8 bins for that one stop.
Sure.
So if you could check, that would be a huge concern, because $55 per bin is cost prohibitive for people who are economically disadvantaged.
We'll be able, we have this trash collection fee that's in place now, and each stop is actually billed. So if there's a 4-unit, the property owner, if it's single ownership with, an apartment type situation, he's paying $40 per quarter. He's getting billed $10 a quarter for each of those units. So when we go to distribute, we're using that billing list, or the vendor will use that billing list for the distribution list. So at that 4-unit, there'll be 8 containers, 4 for trash, 4 for recycling.
Oh, and that owner's being billed.
Right, for each unit in the building.
Okay. Is that on the water bill? There's
It's,
per
I don't
water
know why we
meter?
call it a water bill.
Yeah,
It's,
okay.
it's a city services bill.
And then my other question was, we had large item pickup, which was a huge success and benefit to our neighborhood. And one way or the other, we need to get that back. But one possible way would be if the city could just drop 4 dumpsters in our neighborhood per week, we would fill those babies up. Nobody puts a dumpster on a work site or a roof to be removed on a Friday night so it's there Monday morning for the crew, because when the crew shows up Monday morning, that dumpster is full. Compliments of the neighbors, so.
It's true, it's absolutely true.
So if there would be a way that you could do that for us, we would be so grateful.
That was more of a comment than a question, but had to do with bulky waste pickup or dumpster type collection. I think, Janesville's not had that since it made the conversion to one-person collection vehicles back in the early 80s. But I think it's because we have a landfill in the middle of town. We have a public drop-off area there that's very convenient. Most folks know somebody that's got a pickup truck or a trailer. There's a lot of small haulers out there. There used to be a lot more, but there are people out there who provide that service. Even at that, there are some things that we were able to pick up manually with one person that we may not be able to pick up under this automated program. And so we'll have to see how that plays out a little bit, but it may facilitate our moving toward offering some sort of a citywide bulky collection program as well. It comes up periodically over the years. Various councils have looked at providing a citywide bulky collection program. It comes down in the end to cost and what does the community want to pay for. So, just some thoughts on it.
How many more years before the existing landfill is full? And then where do we go when it is full?
The question was what's the lifespan of the operating landfill? Based on our current waste flows, we're in that 2020, 2021 range. We do have expansion capability westward from where we're currently operating the landfill. And we probably have enough space out there. And I'm simply referring to that area east of the railroad tracks now, out by the sand and gravel property, that we can probably stretch that another 30 years or so beyond that, depending upon waste flows and things like that. Whether or not the council and the community want to expand the landfill and continue its operation, we'll probably face that question within about 4 or 5 years. It took us about 5 years to go through all of the studies and the reports and the permits with the DNR, simply to get them to say, yes, you can put the landfill there. So probably about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, we'll begin that process, and then the community will decide, the council will decide whether or not we'll continue to have the landfill.
Okay.
How far away do you have to go to find a market for the recyclable materials? And does the city benefit from that sale?
Okay, how far do we have to go to recycle materials, and does the city benefit? For the market, where we get rid of the material will determine how far it has to go. We ship material as close as Alters and Beloit boxboard. A lot of our paper goes there. The metals will go to Alter. Plastics, right now, we have an outlet in Des Moines and one in Chicago. It just depends upon where the market is. The way the proposal is set up, we share the revenues that are generated from the material on a percentage basis, and so the better market that we get, the better it is for the city.
Lisa?
I was wondering, will there be any employee layoffs because of the automation?
Will there be any employee layoffs as a result of automation? We're not anticipating that. We believe we can. There are several vacancies right now in the organization. We know that there are several people that are retiring here in 2012. So we're fairly confident that those employees will be absorbed elsewhere in the organization.
Judy?
Are there any plans for the closed landfill south of Blackbridge Road?
No.
Why?
The question was, are there any plans for the old landfill south of Blackbridge Road? We don't have any plans at this stage. In the last 10 years, we've had a couple of opportunities to try and do something with that property. It probably cannot be used for a number of uses because it is a Superfund site and it is an old landfill. We were looking at some light recreational use. There was a model airplane group at one point that was interested in having a fly club out there, and the landfill neighbors didn't want that pursued, and so it was dropped. EPA came in here a couple of years ago, did a study for us on potential redevelopment uses for that, and it wasn't much different really than our own thoughts on what that property can be used for. It's probably some light recreational use at some point.
I'm sorry to have to cut off the questions now. It's 1 o'clock. I'm hoping that John and Bob will be willing to stay around afterwards, and I'm pretty sure that they'll be willing to take questions as we get closer. But our desire as League of Women Voters is to be supportive and encouraging to help recycling happen and to help the city educate the citizens about it. So thank you all for coming.